Good morning, Southern Middle Dragons. Hope everybody is well and safe. I wanted to share another recipe with you today. This is a favorite of my family as well as some former students. It is chocolate chip cookies. I have a special guest today here with me, Campbell, but I also have another special guest that I'll introduce in just a second. This recipe is just a little bit more complex than the last one we did because it takes a little bit more time and there's a couple more ingredients. So my guest today is Eli Bear. He is a sophomore at Pinecrest High School. He is in the Foods 2 program at Pinecrest. So we brought him in to help us out today with our cookies, okay? So the first step we're going to do is we're going to wash our hands. So let's go wash our hands. Okay, so our step 2 is going to be gathering the ingredients, and so we've already done that for you today. So you look at your recipe and you gather everything that you need. Your step 3 would be to gather your supplies for your recipe. Now if I look at this recipe in front of me here, I can see that I'm going to need a cup, I'm going to need a half a cup, I'm going to need a tablespoon, I'm going to need a teaspoon. And let's talk about that for a second. So if we were in school this week, we would be learning recipe terminology. Okay, so here are two things about two recipe terminologies that we would learn in class, and one is a TSP and one is a TVSP. Okay, and yes, there is a difference. Eli, do you know the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The teaspoon's smaller.
That's right. This is teaspoon and this is tablespoon. Okay, so as you can see, Campbell's got the tablespoon and this is a teaspoon. So the teaspoon is definitely smaller than the tablespoon, just like Eli said. This matters because, like for example, when we're adding the baking powder into our cookies, if we put a tablespoon of baking powder instead of the teaspoon that it says to, our cookies are going to turn out way different. They're going to be really not good. They're going to be bad cookies. So make sure we're learning those terminologies. So that's one today for you. All right, so step 4 would be to preheat the oven, which we've already done. We've got that going. So now let's begin our recipe. So all the ingredients go into our mixer in the order that they're written in the recipe. If you have a stand-up mixer, which we do here today, if you have a stand-up mixer, it's great for this recipe, very easy to use. Now, if you don't have a stand-up mixer at home, that's okay. A handheld mixer works just as fine. If you don't have a mixer whatsoever, hand stirring, it works too. Okay, it's just going to take you a couple more minutes to stir it all together, and you're probably going to really build up some arm muscles, which is probably good too. Okay, so you can do any of that. At this point, we added our Crisco, our sugar, our brown sugar, our eggs, our vanilla, and salt and baking soda, or baking powder, excuse me, which we've already done in our mixing bowl here. Okay. At this point, I stop in the recipe and I mix all those ingredients really good together. Be a creamy mixture before I add the flour in. So we've already done that as well. So then the next step is to add 5 cups of flour. So we usually do this by adding 1 cup of flour at a time. So we add 1 cup of flour, mix, 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 another cup of flour, mix, 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 another cup of flour, mix, 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 okay? So we're down to our last cup, which Eli is going to do that for us today. This is flour, just regular flour or all-purpose flour that you're going to use in your cookies, okay? So we're down to our last cup of flour, and he'll add it in our cookies. And you'll turn your mixer on, and what he'll do is he'll add just a little bit at a time, because you don't want to add it too fast, because sometimes it'll stir it right out of the pot. Okay, so adding it just a little bit at a time to make sure that it mixes completely and all together. Okay. All right. And the mixer, you can hear that the mixer's struggling just a little bit, mixing all that dough up together, and that's normal. Okay. So we're nice and mixed, and we're good to go. Alright, so the very last thing we're going to do to this recipe is we're going to add 1 cup of chocolate chips. Now, the recipe doesn't say this, but I use the mini chocolate chips because they're a little bit easier to use and they melt a little bit easier. So I use the mini one. You want to add 1 cup of chocolate chips in there for us, Eli? And again, you can just use the grocery brand. You don't have to use the fancy chocolate chips.
A lot of chocolate chips.
Oh yes, a lot of chocolate chips. By the way, this recipe will make about 50 or so cookies. So if you don't want 50 cookies, you could cut it in half, okay? Just be wary of your fractions when you cut things in half. So let that mix just a couple of minutes to get it nice and mixed. Make sure all the chocolate chips are mixed all the way around in the dough, really good, okay? And you can see that the mixer's struggling just a little bit, and that's normal. Hold on now, let's do that yet. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up our mixer. And we're going to take the attachment off, and we're going to get all the dough out using our trusty spatula. Okay. There we go. Yep. And if you're doing this by hand, you'll be mixing the flour in. I would still do 1 cup at a time when you're doing it by hand to make sure you're getting the flour mixed completely all the way around to the dough. Okay, you can put that in the sink if you want to. All right, so at this point in the recipe, I'm going to change spots with you, Eli. In order to get a really round cookie, my secret is a melon ball scooper. Okay. It's easy to use, it's quick, and you don't have to get your hands dirty. But if you do not have a melon ball scooper, you can certainly use your hands to make a dough ball with your hands. But it's much easier with the melon ball scooper. So you're just going to scoop some dough out, okay, and you'll just put it right down on your pan that you're going to cook on, okay. Like I said, it makes about 50 cookies when you're using this much dough here, so you can get about 50 out, just like that, nice and easy. Now, if you do not have a melon ball scooper, okay, you want to use you just want to use your normal spoon, okay, that you can get out of your drawer, and just scoop the dough in your hand, and then just make a ball and put it on your pan. It works just as good, okay. It's quick and easy for me to use a melon ball scooper, okay. So let's see. You're gonna put all your cookie doughs on the pan, and then you're gonna cook them for about 20 minutes, okay? And they will come out something like this, okay? All right. All right, so again, I'll have the recipe at the end of the video like I did last time, and I'll try to put my hints and my secret techniques in the recipe as well, so you'll have that all in front of you, so that you can also try it that way too with the melon ball scooper and different things like that. Hope you enjoy the cookies. You guys want a cookie? Want to eat one while we wait? Hope you guys enjoy. I miss all of you terribly. I hope everybody is safe and healthy, and I will see you soon.